Good evening. Welcome to Money Matters. My name is Anthony Wilson.
And I'm Judy Canhai. Coming up in this week's program, the Director of Southern Sales talks about car sales, the foreign exchange shortage, and the impact on new car dealers. Also, we'll talk to a taxi driver who tells us how his job has changed now from when he first started 15 years ago.
But first up, I speak with Valmiki Arjun, a financial economist, about diversification. He thinks that confidence is a big issue. Dr. Arjun, good evening. Why have we here in the Caribbean struggled with diversification for decades, if not centuries?
I think it has to do with, firstly, our perception of diversification, our natural tendency to like to take the easy way out of circumstances, especially circumstances that are similar to what exists right now. But most importantly, the conditions that are necessary for diversification are not currently existing within Trinidad and Tobago and in most cases the wider Caribbean as well.
What are those conditions?
We need to really first of all pay attention, especially at this juncture, into reigniting confidence in the economy. With more confidence in the economy, you tend to find that business investment is going to increase across most, if not all, sectors. Now, with diversification, it really means that we want to get more investments, more output and production and productivity to a large extent outside of the hydrocarbon sectors. So in doing so, what we need to engender, firstly, is a more appropriate macroeconomic policy framework. At this particular point in time, the fiscal policy and the monetary policy to some extent is a bit harsh on the business environment. For example, the tax regime has gotten a bit worse and is worsening even more so with the upcoming introduction of the property tax. This is going to exacerbate the cost of doing business even further, which is at this point in time already quite high. That has dejected several businesses from wanting to expand the base of their operations, and even new entrepreneurs from setting up business organizations. Our currency is overvalued at this point in time. There is certainly no doubt about that. But in the short term, if we were to engage in a devaluation of our currency, what you find happening is that many companies, especially the small and medium enterprises, which I believe is the backbone for successful diversification, that is going to exacerbate the cost of their business even further. 90% of what we utilize on a daily basis are imported, and much of their products that they would sell, for example, on the retail market, much of their raw materials that they utilize in order to engage in their operations on a daily basis are imported. So what you find in the short term, and especially when you take the collective pot of the cost of doing business so far with the fiscal and monetary regime, monetary being the cost of borrowing and interest rates, that is, and you add that together with the devaluation that has already happened and future devaluations that are very likely. What's likely to happen is that some of these smaller enterprises, especially in the retail sector, when they downsize or either go out of business either permanently or temporarily, the larger companies are the ones that are going to survive, because they albeit to an extent, can survive a devaluation. Now, it all depends on the extent of this devaluation. I do agree we need a devaluation, but a gradual devaluation until we get to that market equilibrium state. One of the key fundamental areas that we've ignored for many decades that will enable diversification is the quality of our institutions, especially in the state sector, which at this particular point is languishing right now. When you look at the high levels of bureaucracy just to facilitate simple operations, when you look at the amount of red tape and documentary procedures and costs that one needs to go through, especially businesses when it comes to dealing with customs, to simply acquire access to your products or your raw materials that you would have imported, is quite difficult at this point in time.
What industries or what areas do you think should be the focus of diversification?
We need to pay several careful attention to the low-hanging fruits at this point in time, which comprises of the financial sector, the manufacturing sector, agriculture, and tourism. I believe those four sectors will make it if we were to concentrate much greater efforts in those four sectors, it's going to make it easier for us to get out of this dependency, this resource curse of always having to depend on the hydrocarbon sector. What we need are more alternative financial instruments to invest in, which is going to help keep a lot of the money in Trinidad and Tobago and inhibit a lot of the capital flight that has been happening because of the low confidence and the low returns that are offered right now by the financial sector. You find that many businesses and other individuals have opted to take their money and ship it abroad elsewhere, invest it elsewhere, where they perceive it's safer and they earn higher returns as well. So this is one of the main causes of leakage in our foreign exchange system. So we need more avenues for investment, and that could actually be achieved with the stock exchange and the international financial center. Let's take, for example, the stock exchange. Several years ago, the government had they passed a legislation where there was a development of the junior market in the stock exchange to facilitate the growth of small and medium enterprises. But to this date, that has not been utilized by our SMEs. And I want to urge the SME sector to start taking advantage of that. If you list at least part of your company on the stock exchange, that helps you to access financing for development of your company rather than having to go to a commercial bank and paying, for example, a higher interest rate, or just not getting a loan at all. And then you have to tap into your operations. Many of them are facing that plight right now. Now, with respect to the agricultural sector, a lot more involvement of the private sector at this juncture is needed. Now, we are at a stage right now where we cannot depend solely on the government to do everything for us. Our state of this economy is an allocation-based state where we rely on our significant oil rents to be pumped into the economy by the government. What we need to transfer to is a production-based state where our sole focus is on production, and we take the initiative for that. So in the agricultural sector, what we can attempt to do is engage in more private partnerships as opposed to simply only public-private partnerships. So in this case, several private farmers may come together within a community and form an agricultural cooperative where you may have another business, a larger entity that may not have anything to do with agriculture. They pool a sum of money together with these farmers to form that cooperative. And that cooperative will purchase machinery, tractors, other types of raw materials, seeds, fertilizers, etc. that they're going to need. And this is shared amongst this group of farmers within the community. If the government can take it upon themselves to at least be the catalyst for such a project, then you're going to find in my view, some rapid development in the agricultural sector, especially when it comes to the medium term. That is just one avenue of diversification that we can look at.
Great. Thank you very much. Coming up next, Judy speaks with Shiraz Ahmad, Director of Southern Sales, about selling cars in a downturn.